All right, folks, now let's look at some painting. I'm going to get my layers panel put away. As you can see, well, you've already seen what the basic setup is, so I'm going to go up here to my value layer. My lines are completed, and here's a step that might be helpful. I'm going to move my line layer above the value layer so that as I paint, I'll still be able to use those lines as guides. They're not going to get painted over as I work. I'm going to work more or less opaquely, and I'm just going to concentrate on doing some painting. Actually, with this setup, I think it'll be more fun if we just jump ahead and go ahead and dive into the color. I think that's what I had in mind with this basic setup here. So if you'd like to do the value study, I'm sorry, we're going to do the values. Just stay on track here. So the values, I'm going to get my brush ready to go. I'm going to get a brush that's maybe about half the height of the car. The shape of the brush does not really matter because what I'm going to do now is, once again, turn on, or choose a brush that has some pressure variation. I want to paint opaquely, so my paint should be at 100%. And I'm going to start off with this medium gray. Let me go ahead and lock my line layer so it cannot be affected. And now I'm on the value layer. Put my layers panel away for now. So, big brush, 100% opacity, and taking the flow up to 100. And let me just make sure that I don't have transfer turned on. So going to my brush settings, transfer is turned on. I don't know where the term transfer comes from. It just sort of appeared there used to be a different name for that feature, and then suddenly it became transfer. So you can see I have some pressure variation built into the brush. I'm getting a little bit of skipping along the edge, so I'm going to change one more setting here. Under brush tip shape, all of these are buttons, by the way. They'll change the content of this section of the panel. And take the spacing all the way down. Sometimes that value gets pushed up where I don't want it. Using my left arrow to lower my opacity. And I'm just going to do one quick pass with one value just to kind of get myself started. You also see the resolution for this file is not very high at all. Go with the image size. I'm looking at 72, but for a really large size file. If you want this to make a little bit more sense, you can do a read sample and take this to, a resize, take this to up to 300. That'll drop the width and height of the file. Or I may decide just to, just leave it the way that it is. That has to do with the resolution of the original image. So as I work through this first pass of value, what is painting a silhouette, of course, faster ways of doing that. This is a good workout, just practicing being bold with your strokes and choosing brush sizes that are appropriate for whatever maneuver you're trying to do. So if I'm trying to go in and out of this shape, I think a smaller brush is appropriate. Same thing over here, coming in, coming back out. But for this wheel, something closer to its diameter. And hopefully you're getting the idea here. What I'm trying to avoid is allowing myself to spend a lot of time chipping away at the painting. You see, that didn't take a lot of time. And now it's just a matter of choosing values, either from the, just choosing values by eye. So I'm going to go a little bit darker for the tire values, lock those in. As you can see, I'm starting to lose that hubcap there. That's okay. And so as a study, one of the things we do as part of a lot of our design curricula is to have students do what's sometimes referred to as a NOTAN, N-O-T-A-N, representation of a subject, where you reduce the values in the image down to maybe 3, maybe 5. And as a result, everything, every shape is accounted for, and you, again, forces you just to think about shape rather than things like details. So I'm going to exaggerate those vents on the top. Yeah, maybe. So another thing I could do here, let's go to my layers panel, and this time I'm going to duplicate this desaturating layer, and then I'm going to use Command I to invert the effect and have it applied to the car. So I'll call this car black and white, and then I'll call this trace black and white. Okay, so I can always turn this one off and on. So later, if I want to start sampling colors from over here, when I'm ready for the color phase, they're going to be available. So as an exercise, as part of the study, I recommend painting this car or whatever subject you choose at least once using 3 to 5 values. And you can just lay out those values initially. Here's value 1, value 2, value 3, value 4, which almost matches the background, and maybe value 5 is something close to white. And as I paint on that layer, I can look over at my reference image starting to see how, just because of portions of this recording application, that's not really working for me. If I set this up with maybe the car above or below the canvas I'm working on, I might have better results. Okay, another reason why I'm having you all build this out of shapes by blocking things in is because this is one way that I avoid ending up with a lot of sort of gaps or holes in my painting. Now, everything around the artwork, of course, is still empty space, but the subject itself is, because I started with that medium gray silhouette, the whole thing is already kind of stuck there in space. And I might decide to depart from reality and allow some cartooniness to sneak in here and there, since I've already modified the design. Okay, go a little darker and apply this gray to the tailpipe, the exhaust system. So when a stroke, insight into how I like to work, if the stroke goes too far, I don't worry about it. I just keep painting, because it's more important for me to have this shape against shape, edge against edge situation, which can be easily remedied by pushing back the strokes that went too far. Okay, again, this is if you're working entirely freehand. It's better to sort of overshoot a shape or a detail than to try to, if you're timid with it and you kind of stay on the inside, just go ahead and go a little bit too far. And you can always, with either something like the eraser tool or by painting with the adjacent color, you can fix those details in a later step as part of your painting process. Okay. So I just wanted to introduce this idea of blocking in shapes, starting with the silhouette, and then building on top of that silhouette with additional values. The final step, or for this to be complete, I would have to get all 5 of these values applied throughout my illustration, and allow any of the intermediate values that I can obviously see in the original to just kind of wait their turn in terms of getting painted. Okay? So I will eventually, as time allows, I'll get this to a stage where I think it's ready for the next step, which would be maybe some blending and some coloring ultimately. Okay, see you in the next video.